And that should be coming up now. Okay, I don't see my little icon, but it says it's recording. And Livia is going to take over for the beginning. Enjoy.
So, to get some background, HeinOnline is essentially a collection of different databases focused on legal and government documents with some other topics in there. And so it's a really great resource if you are someone who's conducting research or doing a project in the areas of political science, government history, criminal justice, law, public administration, those types of things. A particular strong suit of HeinOnline is that it is actually very helpful in finding case law and legal codes if you are needing to look up those. But it also has some really great history collections, some international law information, and we'll kind of go through what some of the different databases they have are. So today we're going to give you an overview of how to navigate around HeinOnline to get the most out of it. So first and foremost, we're actually going to get to HeinOnline. The main way is to go through the library website. If you are a student and you're in a course like in political science or criminal justice or something of that nature in your Canvas course, you should have a library tab, like a library resources tab, and that a link to HeinOnline should be somewhere in there. But if you want to get there through the library website, what you would do is you would look under this search bar right here, and we have a link to databases by title. This gives you a list of all the different databases we have access to at the library. Since we're looking for HeinOnline, we'll go under H. We have all of our H databases, and here we have HeinOnline. So we'll click that. And here we have our homepage of HeinOnline. So like I mentioned before, it's essentially a collection of different databases. And right here on the home page, we have a list of all of the databases that we have, particular points of interest. If you're a criminal justice student or interested in criminology, there is a criminal justice and criminology database. If you're interested in history, we have a couple of history databases in here, like Slavery in America and the World, or you know, the John F. Kennedy Assassination Collection, a bunch of different things. As I mentioned also before, you know, one of the strong suits of HeinOnline is that there are a lot of law and legal documents in here. As you can see, we have a lot of, you know, federal collections. There is some international law right here, and there are some options to look for, you know, codes and case law. As you can see, we also have some categories up here, content that is in HeinOnline. If you see a database that seems interesting and you're wanting to learn a bit more about it, we have these little information icons right beside each database. So you can click on those and get a little bit of a summary on what the scope of that database is. And if you're interested in maybe seeing, you know, what kinds of documents are in a database, you can click on that title and it'll give you a little drop down and tell you all the different things that are in the database. So for example, in the criminal justice and criminology database, we see that there's some books, periodicals, some different reports in there. So that can give you kind of an overview of what is going on. And so what does an individual database look like? So you can get to a database by, you know, just clicking on the title. There is also a drop-down menu up here where we see all databases. And we can drop down and go to a database from there as well. So we'll just use the criminal justice and criminology database as an introduction. So you can see we come to kind of this introduction page, and there are a few different tabs up here, kind of what we saw in that drop down when we clicked on the title on the main page. So you can see we have some periodicals, books. If you click on that, it'll give you this alphabetized list of all of the documents and things that it has. This is ideal if you already know what you're looking for and, you know the name and want to search for things that way. But if you are, you know, searching just in general, trying to find, you know, a bunch of different types of documents, then you would go up here to our search bar and search through the database like that. And, if we do a simple search like for corrections, then you can see we kind of come towards that more traditional looking database format where we have our results, we have the different ways we can narrow down items and whatnot. And I believe Christine will go over searching a bit more in this in HeinOnline in a bit. But if you have any, further questions about the particular database that you're in, if you go to that main introduction for that database, you'll see there is a tab over here. It says LibGuide. It's also up here as well. But if you click on that, it'll bring you to this separate guide that is all about that particular database. So it'll give you a bit of an introduction on, the topic in general. It will, give you some information on how to use that database, so how to navigate within that, what's in it, as well as, some search tips to really get the most out of that particular database. So I think I will give it over to Christine to talk a bit more about searching and further navigation.
Thanks, Livia. All right, we're going to take a look at some ways that you can search some specific things in Hein now that we have that overview. I'm going to close that tab and we're going to go back to the beginning. Anytime that you want to get back to this very first opening screen, you can do that by clicking on the little building up there or on the HeinOnline icon that's up on the top. Now, there's different ways that you can do searches. You can use this main search box, which is kind of like a Google search box for this entire database of HeinOnline. They call it a one search box, which kind of makes sense. You can also select a specific database to go look in depending on what you want. So one way that we can kind of see how that changes our results, I'm going to put in a case here, Frontiero versus Richardson. And when we do that across all databases, we're going to get 6,641 results, which is, I don't want to look for that many. I don't know about you. But since we are kind of looking, if you're not familiar with this case, this was the second case that Justice Ginsburg argued before the Supreme Court before she was a justice. So we may want to go over here and look at the US federal content, and we can narrow it down that way. But maybe we're interested in this as a part of case law in the US Supreme Court Library. We can look there. Maybe we want to look at this under the lens of civil rights and social justice. We could click there. So there's a lot of different ways that we can narrow that down. I am going to go back up to that civil rights and social justice and click submit. So we went from 6,641 results to, I guess I need to click the search box. 124 results. So that kind of narrows that down a little bit. And then we haven't had to add any different search terms in there to be able to narrow that down to, okay, we are specifically looking at the aspects of civil rights and how that might interact with this particular case. So once you have searched that way, whether you do the database or the full database or the specific one, collections, I'll show you some different options here. You can modify your search, just like any other database. It's going to have some modifiers over on that left-hand side. So we could narrow it down by date if we wanted to, and it has some pre-filled dates in there, or you can put a custom date range yourself. We have already narrowed it down by a collection, in which, if I wanted to change that and I said, no, I want to go back to those 6,600 results, I could just unclick that button and it would go back to the previous search. There are section types. So where are our search terms mentioned? So is this in the notes? Is it in the article? Which volume it is? So that can kind of give you an idea of what type of document you're looking at or where this appears. So a house hearing, there would just be one thing. And there's location also. So this is obviously in the United States, but we can narrow the results down. Now, the case itself would not be one of these states because it didn't happen in every single one of those states. But the sources that we're finding, maybe we specifically want to see how this was used in application in Texas. So we can add Texas in there, and then we get, only 6 results. So that's great. You can also narrow it down by the organization. So again, this is, we're already looking at a Supreme Court case. So it would make sense that the US Department of Justice might be involved in that. But here are some other organizations that might be mentioned in there. And then a particular person. On this case, I'm not really looking for that, but just to let you know that it is an option. Now, there is one thing that I skipped over here. I'm going to close these up a little bit. And I'm going to go back to my previous search results because I don't see that modifier there. And you'll notice this one called Pathfinder Subjects. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to expand that because I'm going to show you this from some other place. But the Pathfinder Subjects are a new feature that Hein added last summer. And it's a way that, like, if you're looking at a case or if you do a search, you'll notice some Pathfinder terms in your search results. And you can use those to browse or explore other documents, other databases, other cases, basically all of the content that Hein has that would relate to that Pathfinder subject. And it's a really great way to expand your search. You may be aware of like one particular case and you want to see what all else is related to that. That's a really great idea. Also, if it's just a topic that you're interested in, right now I'm looking at these Pathfinder subjects on this first search result, and I see one that's healthcare services. I mean, hey, that might be super relevant to things that people want to know about today because of everything that happens in our healthcare system. So just be aware that those Pathfinder subjects are there. If you need to generate a topic for a class or a paper, or you're just not even sure where to start with a particular case, those Pathfinder subjects can really help you out a lot there too. When we're looking at our search results, you'll notice up here are some little icons. We can modify our search, of course. You can also search within the results. So if you already had these 124 results, you can search within and it will let you add some other topics in. You can also just print this page or you can toggle all of the matching text pages. I'm not going to do that because it takes up a lot of space. You can also turn off the scroll. So right now it's set to where you can just keep scrolling down. But if you don't like that for whatever reason, I know that when you're on mobile, sometimes it can be really hard to deal with. You can turn off the infinite scroll and it'll go back to doing page by page results. So those are kind of accessibility options for you. If I check one of these results that I have here, I'm going to open this one right here, item number 2. That's going to take me into the item itself, and you will see it is a document that has all of the text of the case, and it takes a little bit of time for them to load sometimes, depending on how many pages it is. It has, here is a specific question that was presented before the court, and here are the rest of the items in the document. Sorry, it's not loading as fast as I was hoping it would. But the whole document will come on there. You can choose to print or download the document. You can open it, download a PDF, which may be easier to read. Also, if you use a screen reader, PDFs tend to be a little bit easier to work on there. And there, that's going to open up there. And then you can open it up and see the whole document without having to wait for each individual page to load into the viewer. So, in your table of contents, etc. Going back there, you can also save this to my bookmarks. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do that, but just be aware that that little bookmark icon is there for a reason. You can send the link of it to one of your colleagues, your classmates, or your professor if you need to. You can also send that email. So just different things you can do, and that's pretty typical of most databases. I'm gonna close that, and I'm gonna go back. So I mentioned the HeinOnline bookmarks. You can set up an account. Now this is a profile. It's not really like you're getting your own account to HeinOnline and you don't need the library anymore, but it's setting up your own profile. When you get ready to set that up, you'll create an account and pick a username and password, use your email address, use your UT Tyler email address, and then it gives you the option to select a user type. You can do student, professor, or other. If you would like to get emails from HeinOnline, if you think this is a resource you're going to use a lot, you can click on there and then you register. I'm already registered, so I am going to log in. And I'm going to promptly forget what my password is. There we go. So once you have logged in, you'll notice I don't have any saved search queries, but you can save different searches that you do. You can bookmark things and save them in here. You can also set up an alert for anything that comes out about a particular case you want to follow. You can do author alerts if there's a particular author that you're looking for, and that'll set up and send you off some emails anytime something comes up there. So I'm going to go back over and do another search real quick. I'm going to be using advanced search this time. And with advanced search, I always just use the search HeinOnline section because it goes across all of the databases. You can search the catalog. The difference is where it's going to be searching. With search the catalog, you'll be getting all items that are in HeinOnline and not just things that we subscribe to. So that's the big difference there. The HeinOnline is ginormous. I mean, it's huge. It has a ton of stuff, and we don't have a subscription to every single thing in there. We have bits and pieces that are most relevant to our fields of study here at UT Tyler. So if you do that search the catalog, just be aware that you may get results to things that we don't have full text access to. Now, caveat there, don't let that scare you off from doing that because there is interlibrary loan. If you're not familiar with it, we have a lot of videos and tutorials and everything on how to use it, but you can request items through interlibrary loan. So here, I am going to do my little search, and you can do a search just like you would any other place, but I want to show you off the Venn diagram search because it's really cool. This is something that's also pretty new, and I don't know of any other databases that have a search like this, so I think it's really cool. I am going to search discrimination and sex or gender, because this is relevant to the case that I was talking about earlier. And you'll notice as I did that search, my operators here and an or I capitalized. I always recommend doing it that way so that you know for a fact that this is a connecting word and not part of your phrase. And you'll notice that over here I put sex or gender in parentheses because the different ways that things are written, it may have one word or the other, both representing the same concept. So I wanted to make sure I include both. And I put those in parentheses because basically your search is kind of like a math equation and you want to keep those things together to know that they come afterward. So, and here's my little Venn diagram, which is kind of fun. So you'll notice this brownish box over here is all of the search results, or circle, not box, excuse me. All of the search results that came back that had to do with sex or gender. The blue box is all of the search results that came back with discrimination. And this little red part right here is the overlap between the two because I connected those with and. So it's these and these all included in there. And that's still a ton of stuff, 353,000 results. But that's a way that you can kind of do your search, and then you can see what you might add that might, how things that you change in your search, how that's going to affect your results. So let's say I want to add the word benefits in there, and I do my search, and now you'll notice that I'm going to have 3 circles and a much smaller overlap. And it's not coming up. There we go. So now I have this huge blue circle of benefits, and then smaller circles with sex or gender, and smaller circles with discrimination, and then this little red triangle that's going to encompass the results that include all 3 of my search terms. So I like I said, I like the little Venn diagram just because it kind of shows you what all is out there. Depending on your search term, you see how this circle got really, really huge because obviously the word benefit may be in a lot of different places. Now over here in your search results, you'll see bold letters. This is where those search terms are showing up in my search results. Again, you can sort your search results by your relevance, by the date, by the number of times the article is cited, the number of times it's been accessed in the last 12 months, and then by the most cited authors. So those are different ways that you can look. I'm also going to just randomly choose a few things because I want to show you how this works. I can take those and I can bookmark these into my Hein. So if I have my account set up, sorry, I'm doing this piecemeal. You can also do a save. So now if I were to go back over to my profile and looked at my saved bookmarks, now you can see where I saved the documents there. You can also go back, sorry, wrong window. If I go back over here and take my search, and I've lost my spot that I was looking for. I can save this to my Hein search queries and save it. And now when I go back over to my profile, I think I'm not sure why that didn't save. Okay, well, just to show you that we always don't get everything smoothly either, I'm going to look into why that is, because I surmise that it would save my search query, but it's not showing up over there. So there may be something wrong going on. I can come back to that. Are there any questions about like doing these searches, how to use the Venn diagram search, how to set up the account? Looking good. It doesn't look like we have anything coming up in chat. Okay. So I mentioned that you can search in a specific database or across all the databases. I also showed you how to set up your account and how you can save things to your account, except for this thing that's not working, and I'm not sure why. There's also a fast case lookup. So I'm going to go back over to our advanced search here. And Fastcase is a separate product, but you can look for citations in HeinOnline that will also show up in Fastcase. And just the interface on those is a little different, what you can do with them. So I am going to go ahead and type in my case number. Why? Oh, because the num lock isn't on. Sorry. So in the citation navigator, when I click on get the citation, it's going to pop that open. And this is the actual text of the case of Frontiero v. Richardson. So if you wanted to read that, you can go and look over all of it. One of the nice things here is that we have links within that text that will take you over to the cases that are being quoted. So all of the precedents, you can link back over that way and see where the precedent came from. You can also, excuse me, shrink this for a minute. You can also save this into my Hein, and hopefully that bookmarked itself. And you can open this up as a PDF and save it. So you can download it and come back to it later. Oh, when I clicked on my Hein bookmarks, I don't have any particular tags on there, but maybe I wanted to create a new tag and I can save that bookmark. And then anything that I'm doing research on that's for that same topic, I can save it in that same place. Now I'm going to go back over here. I cannot find, yes. And look up a citation on the citation navigator. Well, it will not let me look it up by the name. I guess I do have to have the case number. This also, if you're not sure about the abbreviation for the court that you're looking for, you can scroll through this list. I know that I am looking for the Supreme Court. There we go, which is just US. And get the citation that way. If for some reason you do have a fast case account, you can link that. So here we go. This is what I was looking for. The HeinOnline has a PDF version, and that is going to pop up, and it's going to look like the actual pages of a document that would be printed out. So if you went to the government printing office and you wanted to get a print copy or take a look at this in a bound form, you could, and that's what these pages look like. And it has the same kind of things with those other search results where you can download it, email it, save the link, share the link, bookmark it, all of that good stuff. But you're not able to do very much else with it. I will point out that there's a cite button, which is great if you are having to cite things. I know that cases can be difficult. And so this has all the different ways that you could cite. Most of the time, you're probably going to be using APA because that's pretty common for social sciences, and that would show you there, and you'll notice after I highlighted it, copied it, or the Blue Book, which I think is actually what APA refers back to as the Blue Book citations. So those are going to be copied up there. Now that was the HeinOnline version. If I go back over, one more. There, the fast case version, that's the one that I came up with on that first search. And you'll notice it's just a little bit easier to read. It's not the full text of the entire document all at once. It's going to have the main excerpts that are really important. And just makes it a little bit easier to read over. And you can expand those if you want to look at them. As I mentioned, you can click on the links to go over to the specific page, or you can download that whole PDF and it'll open up as a print copy. So, all right. Last thing, and then we'll open it up for more questions if you have them. What if I didn't answer a question that you have, or you come up with one later? I'm so glad you asked. Hein has a really great knowledge base. If you click on help from within the database and go to knowledge base, that will open up some different options, whether it is blog postings or videos or training guides, how to search, and they organize it really nicely. So you could say your top tips everyone should know. Sounds really good. And it has the tip of the week blog series that you can go to. You can also go back and find the training videos. So they have the National Survey of State Laws. There's a video that can kind of talk to you about that full database. We've just mainly given an overview of the database itself, but if you really want to know some of the information about the types of information and the sources that they use, these videos are going to be really good. And that is that. Are there any questions? I'm pretty good. And I don't see anything coming up in the chat. So if you do have questions about this later, you're welcome to contact us here in the library. If you are a criminal justice or political science or history or public administration person, Livia is your librarian. So you can contact her in your Canvas class on that left-hand side where your like documents and quizzes and submissions and discussion and all of that is. You have that library resources tab. Click on that and you'll see her information on the research guide that's for your class. So thank you so much for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, you as well.
Thank you.